Hey, Ag Teacher Thoughts here, coming at you with another video, and this is another lab based on grafting. So I know I've done a couple of videos on grafting already, but that's the unit we're on. So since it's the unit we're on, I'm going to show you a couple more things. Now, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to make models of various grafts that we would use in fruit trees or ornamental trees. And grafts are done for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I'm not going to go into today. I just want to kind of show you what the lab looks like and how it's done. So just like any good teacher, I am making good use out of foam. This lab is supposed to be done with pool noodles, but it is the first week of November, and finding pool noodles was tough. So what I've got is foam insulation. This is like a foam pipe insulation, so this should work just good enough. Pool noodles are really nothing more than pipe wrap that people made pretty colors and then sold as a toy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover a couple of different grafts. We're going to talk about those, and then I'm going to show you how to do the lab. So with this, the grafts that we've got going here, this is our saddle graft. So down here is our rootstock. So we're going to cut that into a fine point. Up top it is our scion. So that is our material that we're grafting on. So that's a saddle graft. This is one half of a whip and tongue. So a whip and tongue is cut at a rather steep angle. So there's one steep angle cut that goes here. And then we come in from about a third from the point and we make a cut across that goes all the way down and angles towards the center. That one is a whip and tongue graft. And this one, the rootstock has this cut and you flip it over, and the scion will have the exact same cut. This would be a splice graft. It's just a simple steep angle cut. And your rootstock has this cut and your scion has that cut. And you basically replicate it on the top side, and then you would attach those together. So that's a splice graft. Over here, this is a cleft graft. So with this would be for like a larger piece of rootstock, maybe a tree that you've had growing for a few years that's an inch or two in diameter. You would go in and cut it off, and then you would put, and this would be your rootstock, it's what's in the ground, and then you would put your scion material or your chosen material on the top, and those would have little buds on them right about in there. And with all of these, you would be covering them regularly with grafting wax, but what we're going to do is we're going to represent them in foam. Because it's much easier to do this type of grafting, especially like this one, indoors where it's warm. And then as a teacher, you've got foam examples that you can place on the wall for students to help remember, and you don't have to be outside to do this. So we're doing it right, the grafting practice right now in November, because I want my students to be good enough at grafting that when we do bring in the rootstock and the scion material, that we can make really solid grafts and that we can actually have a good go at it. If I'm going to use my classroom funds to purchase rootstock and scion material, I want to make sure that we're going to make good use of it and that we're going to have successful grafts. So we're doing a lot of practicing so that they understand how it works. Now we're going to go ahead and transition over to the foam models, and I'll show you how that goes together. Okay, so now we're going to work in our foam models, and hopefully this hasn't just flipped the screen all over from you, but this is the way my phone's set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to make foam models of our grafts. So this one is a foam model of a whip and tongue graft. So you can see that we have our cut that I talked about, a steep angled cut, which we want that a little bit stronger. And then we have our third cut, and this should actually be angled in towards the center. And we're going to make two identical cuts on both ones, and then we can put them together. Now, as our students are practicing with these, originally I designed this to be with like pink and green and orange and red pool noodles, where you could come in and you could take those pool noodles and put one color on one side and one color on the other. This is the only material that's available to me right now, so that's why I'm using this. The other thing is, since they are dark in color, I am lining the graft with a piece of paper so that the students can see the angles of the cut as they go. So let's go ahead and do a quick, easy example, and we're going to do that with the splice graft. So I'm going to take some of my foam material that we're going to use, and I'm going to go ahead and split this in half. Now this was designed for insulating pipes, so there is a split already on one side. You can put your thumb in it to hold it, and then just rub your other thumb all the way down it and make it fall into, or split apart. Okay, I only really need half of this because we're going to display this on a piece of paper. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and split that down, trying to get nice even pieces. Okay, and with this you can use any method that you want to cut your foam. Right now for me, the scissors or the scalpels work pretty good. A serrated bread knife also works really good. So I use scalpels. You can use scissors or a serrated bread knife, whatever you want on that. So here's our material. We've got those in two different pieces. Now let's just do the really quick one. I'll set one of these off to the side. For the splice graft, we want a very steep angle to our splice graft. This is where a scalpel works really well. Make sure you do have a cut-resistant surface on the other side. So a splice graft, if this was our rootstock and this was our scion material, we would simply put them together and tape them up. We've already practiced that with our celery lab, taping things up. So what I want to do is we're just making display models so they can remember which ones are which shapes. So I'm going to take a piece of blue paper. So this is blue construction paper. And I've simply cut off a strip that is about 1 inch wide. And then I'm going to place this in between these two. And then we're going to glue this to a piece of paper so that our students can see that there's a division there. Okay. I'm going to then take those, and it's going to be hot glued to the back of another piece of construction paper. So let's go ahead and put this down here. And hot glue will work fairly well for this. It's usually a quick way to put things together. Get over here to my hot glue gun. Okay, and I've got the larger diameter hot glue gun. Any size will work at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of hot glue on our rootstock. And yes, it will, if it's really super hot like this, it may actually melt the foam. So where the little ones are a little bit more helpful, it tends not to melt the foam. Okay, so we've put that one on there. I'm going to put another little dot in here. Place my paper in between. I can put some more dots on the other side. And I'll come in and add a little bit of my hot glue. Match those up. And there is my example of my graft. So that is a foam graft model. And with this, I'm going to repeat this with all of my other grafts. So you're going to go through and you're going to find your other grafts. You'll do the cuts as you'll find them online. So if we were going to do a whip and tongue, we would put that in here. We would slip our scion material into our rootstock. Okay, like so. And normally these would line up a little bit better, but hey, we're using foam. And then you make a zigzag. So we would line these up, and then you make a zigzag with your paper. You put that in with your foam so that you can see how those two go together and what that cut looks like. Okay, so there would be your whip and tongue, and then we would hot glue that down also. If you wanted to do the cleft graft, let's come in here with the cleft graft. This one might take a little bit more to do. Normally we'd use a round stock like this, a round material. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just take off a little bit of the base. Okay, so I've got that. And then I'm going to cut a piece of my foam off. So I've got that foam already. And this is going to be my scion material, and this would be my rootstock. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make my cut on my scion material. Comes in at a very steep angle, like so. And then you're going to come in and make a cut for your cleft graft. Then this material will fit inside there. Okay. I will once again take my blue paper and I will line that up, right? So that will go in there. And this one goes in here, so I know that that is my graft, right? That is where my cut is. And then let's go ahead and just glue this one up too. And a little bit of glue to my scion material. I'll shove that in before my foam cools too much. All right, and then the other thing that I have my students do is I have them go ahead and write the name of the graft on there, so in a marker, and then they can write information about the graft itself. All right, so I hope that was something that you learned about, a quick lab to do with students. As far as with pool noodles. So we've got our pool noodle grafting. And with these, again, these would work much, much better if we had colored pool noodles. I just did not have access to any of those today. But I would use different colors for your rootstock and your scion material. Anyway, this has been Ag Teacher Thoughts, and this is our pool noodle grafting lab. I hope you learned something. If you want any further information about this, please go ahead and drop me a line. The other thing is with these videos, if you're still watching, you're one of the only about 2.5% of my viewers that are actually subscribed.